African American community. And today I am honored and delighted to have as my guest the first African American principal of Vallejo Senior High School and the granddaughter of Jesse Bethel, who was the first African American on Vallejo's school board, Mrs. Nicole Anderson. Welcome to you both. Thank you both for agreeing to be my guest today. And I just would like to start out a little bit about your background. Mr. Isadore, were you born locally or?
Yes, born and raised at Kaiser Hospital of Vallejo, California.
Oh, lovely, lovely. How about you, Nicole? Were you born here?
I was born actually in Concord, California, but my grandfather and grandmother raised their family here in Vallejo. So I had the opportunity to grow up as a young child in Vallejo. And of course, my parents still reside in Concord, but I had an opportunity to call Vallejo my home for many years, where I have a lot of family and friends who still are here. So.
Wonderful. I'm so happy to hear that. I just want like you both to share a little bit about your background. Being here in Vallejo, you know, we hear so many different things, but one of the things that I know as being a parent and volunteering down at Vallejo High School and the other high schools that Miss Anderson kind of ropes me into, I found that there is a climate at the school where you have a group of people that are really interested in excelling and exceeding. And I'd like you both to comment on that a little bit. Mr. Isadore first, please.
Well, great. One thing I want to say, it's truly rewarding to be a product of Vallejo and to be able to serve my community. I mean, when I look over the days, I was telling somebody just today, being principal of Vallejo High School is just as good as being the president of the United States.
All right.
When you can serve your community and have the best interests of our students and children, it's just a fabulous reward. One thing that we are very excited about at Vallejo High School is how we as a faculty and as students are looking at how we are going to excel and how are we going to really look at student achievement for the best interest for our students to go into college, be successful in careers, and really provide a real strong college-going culture.
That's fabulous. How about you, Miss Anderson? I know that you, I had the wonderful opportunity to work with you for almost 3 years at Vallejo Senior High School, and then you got this wonderful promotion. Well, how do you talk a little bit about the difference between that high school kid and now we're back at elementary school, and you know we're setting the groundwork for them to go to the high school. Talk a little bit about that, please.
Well, you said it very well. I think leaving the high school, which I had been working with high school kids for 13 years, starting here at Bethel High and actually going over to Vallejo High, I had just really the perspective of that older child and just really grew to love working with teenagers. And so it's interesting now that I have my own little ones who are elementary age. When I got the call to go to Highland, it was very interesting because many people, I think, had in their mind that this was going to be like this big shock and this huge change. And there are some differences that are very subtle, but I have to say it's the same experience. They're just smaller. That's it. They're smaller.
Yes.
There are some 16 and 17-year-olds who are larger than me who act like my kindergartners.
Yes.
However, what was really powerful is, as you said, you see a miracle happen from that 5-year-old that shows up on the first day of school and then they're going into first grade, and you literally see this development of their mind. And what we do at that time is so critical that I could literally see them fast forward to now they're 13, 14, 15 in, you know, one of Mr. Isadore's teachers' classrooms, and you can see where they're going to be. And so how powerful it is to be in that position to make an impact now, which is where it really starts. You know, the high school level, you have a whole different focal point in trying to get them ready for college and career. But I tell you, without that foundation, it is just, it really is hard to have a powerful impact if you don't start with them literally when they first day of school. They show
The
up
very first day. The very first
Yeah.
day. That is so important. And I can remember having, you know, my own children going into kindergarten and, you know, watching them grow. And then just this past June, watching my grandson graduate from high school. I mean, it's really an incredible transition to watch. And I'm so delighted that you, Mr. Isadore, are, you know, local, you're here, you're at the high school. I had the pleasure of working with the former principal at Vallejo Senior High School. We had a very close relationship. A wonderful, wonderful person. And I am so happy to see you put in your imprint, your changes, and what you'd like to have happen at Vallejo High School. Would you talk to us a little bit about what kind of changes, assistance that you plan on implementing at Vallejo?
One thing, my motto with the vision of Dr. Bishop, our superintendent, all students can achieve. And I'm going to go farther and say all students will achieve. And they will achieve based on the fact that we are putting the time into those students and we are molding them for the betterment of their community. One thing, we look at students today and we start saying, you know, where are you ready to go? What are you ready to do? What do you need? How can I assist you? Because our students, after high school, the next minute they could have $1 million contract. They could be working at Disney.
Yes.
They could be on the cover of a television performance. They could be in college. They could be doctors and lawyers. So my vision is, how am I going to move my students to give them the understanding that they will be successful? And what am I going to do to provide a roadmap academically? One thing is, knowledge is power.
Yes.
And when we look at a 4-year roadmap for our students, the strongest thing that we can say to our students is, you need to have a dream, and you need to create that dream. From that dream, you're going to be successful. If you'd have told me in the first grade that I was going to be principal of Vallejo High School, I would have said, no, I'm not going to do this. How do you even spell principal? Because I do know when I was in the principal's office, you know, there was some drama. And now to be able to say, you know, young man or young lady, you can be successful through your parents, through your teachers, through your principal, through your mentors, through everyone that surrounds you.
Yes.
All kids will be successful at Vallejo High School. That will happen. I'm going to stand and die by that. So I'm truly happy that I can put things in at Vallejo High School to first look at, what does that student look like coming through our doors? What type of successes will that student need? How will we celebrate that student? How will we hold on to that student to nurture that student through the good times and the bad times? Because we all know that we are with students. Students are with us more than they're with their parents and family. And we're raising single parent students, and we're raising students who don't even have parents, from foster care to all walks of life. So we're really putting the time in.
That is so true, and was one of the challenges that I know that as educators you face. You know, you're in the principal, you're a principal, but those teachers that are on the line day to day that have to deal with your elementary school students, and you don't know where that kid slept at last night. You don't know what happened. You don't know what that kid's circumstances were. And you know, unfortunately, you know, with a low income level, we have a really hard time with trying to, you know, grab a hold to the mind and showing a kid a dream. How is a kid supposed to have a dream when, you know, most of the time he's hungry or really doesn't have anybody that is paying attention to him? One of the things that I love about you, I've ridden around the school with you on that scooter. This guy is incredible. There's no place on that campus that he doesn't go, off the campus,
I can't go,
that he doesn't go. We were riding one day and I looked at Mr. Isadore. He had me back behind Corbis Field, back over in the trees, and he saw some kids over there and he just drove right on over there and he said, "What are you guys doing?" You know, and they said, "Oh, we're not doing anything." He said, "Okay." You know, in a few minutes they left, you know, but who knows what what could have gone on had he not. But I love those eyes. I love those.
It was a stern look, like,
yes,
you know you're not supposed to be by here.
They know they weren't supposed to be there. So just, I mean, you didn't even have to get rough or anything. You just kind of gave them a look and said, what you guys doing here? Right. You know, and they knew. Working with you was so delightful. I haven't had the opportunity to work with you over at Highland yet, but I know it's coming. So she asked me the other day, Miss Isadore, so are you still connected with Vallejo Senior High School?
Yes, she is.
Or am I going to be able to get some of that time of yours, you know? So she and I had a nice laugh about that. But with Mrs. Anderson, she was always so positive. One of the things that she would do, depending on what the holiday was, I've seen her in an Afro wig. Okay, that is not a pretty sight. Okay, I'm here to tell you. It was Halloween and everybody was dressed up and she had this Afro wig on and I was like, are you kidding me? But the kids loved it.
Yes.
They loved it. They loved the fact that she was able to, you know, reach out or get on their level and just have some fun with them and talk with them. So tell me what you're planning for Halloween this year, young lady. What do you got planned?
You know, I'm not sure because for Highland, you know, we did a little costume parade, which had been a tradition years back, and so we kind of brought it back this year, and they loved it. So of course I had to have a costume.
Of course.
So I was Catwoman this year.
Oh, interesting.
And yes, and so, but I did bring that wig back out.
Did you? Did you?
We had an assembly, a Black History Month assembly.
Yes.
And I started off with telling the story about how I was raised and what it looked like back in the day. And what it looks like when I was born. And so of course my parents had an afro. So I had to describe that to the kids. So when I came out into this world, this is what I saw, and I came back out on the stage and had the afro and they just laughed.
Oh, that is too funny.
And then we evolved into having our first African-American president, because we actually have a life-size statue or kind of paper cutout of Obama.
How interesting.
So he comes to our assemblies all the time.
All right.
So the kids were very excited about that. But you know, I was just going back to your comment about the poverty rate.
Yes.
And just economically where our kids are and having that dream. And I was thinking of my grandfather and just kind of his path.
Yes.
And that was his path. And so it's like we have testimonies that are there to show kids that, hey, you don't have to have a whole lot of money, but you do need education. Yes. That was the great equalizer. Yes. You have to have your education. If you don't have that, it's going to be hard. It's going to be so hard. And so I think that one of the things I really prided the work that we did at Bethel High when it first opened was, and we all know Mr. Tony Gross, who I always say is like my lifelong mentor and was my first boss, gave me my first job.
All right.
But he was the first principal here at Bethel High, African American. And one of the things that was really critical for him was building relationships and empowering kids and making that connection so that that real life, like for us, you know, Mr. Bethel was around, recently, you know, and some of their grandparents or parents knew him. So we were able to connect who that person was. So it's not just some name, you know, some letters on the school, but it was actually a person who walked and was in our shoes, and we could have those conversations. And I think that going into the future, like even for our 5-year-olds, you know, how do you say to them, you're going to be a principal one day, or you're going to be the president one day? How do you say that to them when their minds are really into videos? Yes. You know, we have to compete with that. So how are we going to do that? And so I think, you know, looking at from an equity standpoint of whether our kids have a small amount of resources or a large amount, bottom line is we have the ability as leaders to bring this to them and give them the opportunity, the options, which is what, you know, I know Mr. Isadore is really focused on, because that's the next step to the real world for kids. That's right, that's right. And so just giving them those options, I think is going to be huge for us. And we all had that. You know,
Yes,
we had
did.
that. We
We
all
did.
had that given to us, and all of our families came from not having a whole lot.
That's right. That's
But
absolutely right.
we had options, and we were given that exposure, and in the end, it was education.
It was
And so,
education that
yeah.
was just a great, it's,
Yeah.
as you say, the great equalizer for all of us. You know, my parents were from the Midwest, from St. Louis, and you know, came out here in the early 1940s, as most of our parents and grandparents did. And the one thing that, you know, my mom and my dad both stressed was education. It was always about education. Of course, I was a little hard-headed, and I was one of those ones that was, you know, my mom was constantly running up at the school because, you know, I was a little rude, let's just use that term. But I managed to make it through,
Turned out wonderful.
and turned out okay. I'm okay with it. So the challenges that young people face today, one of the ladies in my water aerobics class said to me the other day, and I'll just quickly share this funny story, was she said her son asked his daughter, I need you to go out and wash your mom's car and make sure you put a little elbow grease in that. And so about half an hour or so passed, and so she hadn't done it, and he said, you know, honey, when are you going to go out there and wash those windows? She said, well, I'm waiting for you to bring me the elbow grease. It is where we come from
Right.
versus where our kids are today. You know, she was waiting for the elbow. Dad, I'm happy to do it. But I mean, you know, and to us we think, oh my gracious, but you have to really stop and think about where they're coming from. You know, that is not their experience, and so you know, the challenges that they face are just, I mean, just enormous. As a matter of fact, I spoke with a young lady yesterday who had gotten I think she said she'd gotten a master's in health education, and she was just desperately, you know, looking for a job. You know, and I said, I really feel sorry for you young people nowadays. I really honestly do, because, you know, I stepped out of high school and, you know, I was able to walk into a job. Most people are stepping out of colleges with professions and so on and so forth.
Doctor's degrees.
Doctor's degrees, doctorates, PhDs, and the times are just difficult. So how do we impart to our children the still importance of education when we are where we are?
Right. One thing that's really unique, as Nicole had stated earlier about how she sees them at the elementary, and we get them at the high school level, and I kind of look at CC Sabathia. You can be on top of the world in seconds based on just your talents. So high school kids already see that mentality of where they're already destined to go. It's kind of how do they get there, and how do we shape them to get there. For example, when I start looking at a student who's maybe talented in an athletic and has athletic ability, however, he might not have the academic ability. And the question is, are you going to be able to survive if you get hurt?
Yes.
And not be able to get a job to feed yourself. So we have to be able to give them those tools. However, one thing that we've looked at, and it's really unique, is our academies and pathways that's coming, I want to say new and really flourishing. The academies, back in the day when we had the old wood shop or auto shop, and you took that class, and let's say you didn't go to college, but you actually had the talent and skills to basically say, you know, I can get a job and already have that skill set. Now our academies are themed academies, where, for example, at Vallejo High School, we have our biotech, we have our engineering and robotics, we have our hospitality and tourism, and we're also going to be offering 2 more academies that will be rolling forward next year, with a sports academy and a performing arts academy.
Oh, fabulous.
But what's happening is students now are able, through their the 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, to get a pathway where they're learning, let's just say hospitality and tourism, or learning about that type of, I want to say, procedure of academic excellence, to learn about what's offered in that field. So they will get the knowledge in English, math, science, social science, some way that will be driven in the curriculum about hospitality and tourism. And now they will have the linked learning piece where they will be able to work in the field their senior year, where they will now be able to work in stores and just their whole career options, hotels.
You know, and we got Marine World,
Six Flags. And so those kids are really starting to understand, yes, we're preparing you for college and careers, but it's keeping kids engaged.
Yes.
Because those kids now want to be part of that themed academy, and they're ready to go above and beyond.
That's fabulous.
So it's really fabulous, and the whole level of mindset for academies and just the vision that it produced. It's increasing performance, it's increasing attendance, it's decreasing suspensions, expulsions. It's making students feel how the real world is connecting them to the future, and they're really thriving and going above and beyond with our academies.
That's fabulous. You have some comments on
that?
that?
It's just as I'm hearing him, it'd be so wonderful we had academies with our little babies. However, you had mentioned the thought about talent, and really tapping into their talent. And I think it's so crucial for us at the elementary level to really identify what is that, even as a 5-year-old, what is that talent that they have, so that we can start to build upon it. Because even for me, like, you notice that when kids get disengaged right around, it's kind of that 10th grade-ish, ninth grade, they're still finding their way, but 10th grade is kind of that, do I like school anymore, or do I? And you see it also in elementary, and you see it about the 3rd grade. And so you'll notice, that's when kids mature a little bit more, and they're growing into from that kind of baby stage to I'm a bigger kid. And so really engaging them in the curriculum based on what their talents are and their skills. And I think it's a little bit more than just exposing them to this particular curriculum, but that we really connect them to what does this do for me? And where is this going to lead me in my future, and keep me engaged, just like I'm engaged in those video games, and that's going to be a tough task. It's going to be a tough, but with our Common Core standards being implemented, I think that's going to be a great, it's a challenge because it's a change, but it's going to be so powerful for our kids, because it's now going to put us in a place where we're going to be able to help kids have an outcome where they know that, okay, in the end, I'm being assessed based on the skill that I'm producing, and not necessarily that I was exposed to these 50 books that I had to read.
Yes, that I had to read.
But that there's a skill that comes out of it, and I think that's going to be huge. And so at Highland, we're really priding ourselves on changing how we're teaching in the classroom. So we have to be more engaging with kids. We have a high population of English learners, as most schools do in California.
Absolutely.
And so between that process of engaging our English learners through language, we also have to think about all of our kids, which is what Mr. Isadore said, and what we hear, and our superintendent has done a fabulous job of really giving us that vision to understand where we're going. And so engaging every single kid in the classroom is going to be huge. As soon as they come in, we're implementing the transitional kindergarten, which is like preschool, but within our district. And that's going to be powerful too, because now you have a group of, those 4-year-olds who weren't quite ready for kindergarten. And now you have this group of kids that now we can lay a foundation for them, so then they can jump kindergarten, because it's not what it used to be. It's not nap time, it's snack time anymore. You're reading when you get out of here, you're going to be reading. And so the bottom line is we have a huge task, but I think we have the leadership and the core group, as Mr. Isadore said, that group of people at school, whether it's teachers, whether it's supervisors, whoever it may be, you have a group of people, even our parents, who we're empowering every day, who just are still learning how to navigate through this new school system, even though it's a product but it's a product of the old system. We know, a lot of things haven't changed, and that's unfortunately brought a bad experience for some. But I think with us having that vision around equity and making sure that all kids have access, I think that's going to change. It's going to change, and it's going to provide some empowerment for our parents, whether it's our Latino parents who speak only one language, or it's our parents who are 17 bringing their kindergartners to school. That's the bottom line. So
that is a challenge.
yeah.
Well, listen, I am just absolutely delighted with this conversation, with this discussion, and especially with you both. You both are just mean so much to me, and I'm so happy and just real proud that you agreed to come and sit and let's talk about some of the positive things that are going on in the Vallejo City Unified School District. We hear a lot of things. I'm not trying to negate what the negative is out there, but we know about that. What we don't know about is what's good coming down the pike. And this was my intention with this show, and to have you two as my inaugural guest, so that hopefully next month when I come up with another topic and some other guests, they have a very high standard that they will have to reach, because both of you were absolutely fabulous, and I want you to know how much I appreciate you, the granddaughter of Jesse Bethel, but more importantly, my friend and my mentor as the school site president. She really helped me. I mean, I spent 3 years at Vallejo High School as a school site president. I was drowning that first year, and she helped me. She helped me out a lot. And so, Mr. Isadore, to you, it's been a pleasure. You and I have known each other 20-something years. I've had the opportunity to work with you on another level. Another level. So I just want you to know that I appreciate you. I appreciate all the hard work that you do. You both, our children deserve that and more. And I know I don't have to wait long for a telephone call for me to come down to help.
No,
actually, as a matter of fact, I think they got my name painted down there at Vallejo High School.
Yes.
I just walk on the campus and
you have your own parking space.
I got my own parking space there.
Yes.
So
she does? Okay.
Yes.
Because you have one at Highland. I'm just giving you some time.
Yes.
Still.
Thank you, dear. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you both so much.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, this was our first show in Our Voices, and our guests were absolutely fabulous today. I want to thank each and every one of you for taking the time out of your schedule to take a listen at what we have to say and what we have to share today. Thank you so much, and we appreciate you.